We are paid, that's all. We are God.
Hey guys! This is part 6 of What If Naruto Became a Demon King. During the second stage of the Chunin Exams, Orochimaru made a terrible mistake in blocking the seal that held the Kyuubi. He gave birth to a being with more power than Raizen himself. Watch as Uzumaki Naruto takes the world by storm as the new Demon King. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe and check the author in the description. Let's start. Chapter 12, Reap What You Sow. Silence reigned in the small room for what seemed like hours. As Naruto listened to the story, he nearly found himself in tears. Were he not as strong-willed as he was, he may have very well cried. He had already known much of what had happened. Kyuubi had informed him of everything she knew. But hearing it from his father's perspective really gave the knowledge a more personal feel to it. And that's everything, Minato said. Sarutobi stood from his seat and knelt before Naruto, who had a rather pensive look on his face. With a sigh he spoke, "Naruto, I'm sorry." Naruto looked at the old man and frowned. "What for? Biwako-chan was my wife. I knew she was the woman to help your mother deliver you, and when she died that day, the anger that I held at her loss, it kept me from doing more to ensure that you were seen as the hero you are as you grew up. I knew it wasn't your fault, but I couldn't bring myself to not feel a bit of resentment, and, I'm sorry. I saw your father seal the Kyuubi away, condemning you to the life of Jinchuriki, but I didn't know it was because someone else forced his hand. Can you forgive me?" Sarutobi pleaded with the youngest ninja among them. Naruto closed his eyes. "No." Everyone winced, and as Sarutobi looked down, the blonde continued. "Forgiveness is just giving someone permission to do it again. However, I am willing to forget, to leave the past where it belongs, in the past, and to move on." "Thank you, Naruto," Sarutobi said as a few stray tears ran down his face. "Ha, no problem, Ajisen," Naruto said with a smirk. His smirk soon turned into a frown, however, as a thought occurred to him. How did Madara know about the seal? He looked at his father, who was staring at him pensively. I suppose he could have figured out the part about the seal weakening during childbirth. But how did he know I was going to be born? And how did he know the exact time the birth would take place and where? Wasn't my birth supposed to be a well-kept secret? How could he have figured all of that out? I don't know, Minato said. There was a pensive silence for several moments as everyone realized Naruto had a point. There were only a few people who even knew of Kushina's pregnancy. Myself, Biwako, Taji, Sarutobi, the elders, we didn't even tell the ANBU who they were guarding or why, just that it was very important they not let anyone inside. So basically, we've got a serious leak in Konoha, Naruto said. Someone betrayed Ka-san's location and the date of my birth to Madara, but we don't know who. It seems we'll have to be careful and do what we can to root out this traitor, Minato said, looking pensive. We'll start with the elders, since they are the ones who I think would benefit the most from betraying me. At the moment, however, there isn't anything we can do, as all we have is speculation. The yondaime shook his head and focused his thoughts elsewhere. Naruto, I was wondering if you would be willing to tell us how you got the Rinnegan. Naruto frowned as he looked at the other two, both of whom seemed interested. Very well. You gave us some of the history of the Uzumaki clan. Now I shall do the same. The Uzumaki and Senju clans have always held close ties. They were distantly related to each other. However, what most people don't know is they were also related to the Uchiha, going back to the time when chakra was first being dose-covered. Their relation to that clan was through one man. You may know him as the Rikudo Sennin, birth of the new Demon King. Kyuubi walked down the hall of one of the many strongholds of the Kitsune clan. The walls of the hallway were a dark beige stone, with glittering candles lighting the area. The floor was also made of stone, but was lined with a crimson carpet that lay along the center of the hall. Other than that, the hallways was fairly barren, lacking the decor that Kyuubi usually preferred in the places she lived in to have. Though considering this was more or less the fortress that her clan went to in times of great conflict, niceties like beautiful decoration were pushed on the wayside for functionality. This particular stronghold was a veritable fortress. Hidden within the Yukon Mountains in the northern hemisphere of Makai, the entire base was situated deep inside the very rocks of the mountain and concealed using one of the strongest Kitsune illusions in the world, recharged very 100 years by 16 of the Kitsune clan's most powerful illusionists. Not even a demon on the caliber of herself could see through it unless they already knew this fortress existed. Reaching the end of the hallway, Kyuubi came upon a large set of double doors being guarded by 2 Kitsune with 4 tails. Upon noticing her approach, the duo snapped at attention and opened the doors. Nodding to the 2 of them, Kyuubi walked into the room beyond. The place she had entered was easily recognizable as a conference room. It was large and cylindrical, with a large circular table in the center of the room. Surrounding that table were 12 seats, with all but one of them already filled. At Kyuubi's entrance, everyone fell into a hushed silence, the Kitsune present staring at her as she walked to her seat, a large throne-like chair to show her elevated status. "First off, I would like to thank Hesaki-san for getting in touch with all of you," Kyuubi said, nodding at the old man sitting 2 seats on her left. "It has been many hundreds of years since a full council has been called in session." She paused for a second, letting that sink in. It was a subtle reminder to everyone of her power. No one but she could call in a full session of the Kitsune clan council. There are many things that have happened in the last 600 years. As you know, I have been out of touch since I was in the human world. I would like a report on what has happened during my time away. An older Kitsune with 5-tailed stood up and bowed. "Of course, Kyuubi-sama." Kyuubi listened intently as the members of the council gave their reports, a thoughtful frown on her face. It seemed that the 2 remaining demon kings, Yomi and Mikuro, were still in a state of warfare, though it had turned into more of a cold war. Only a few skirmishes had happened in the last 200 years, and neither Yomi nor Mikuro had gone into battle in the last 400. That was a good thing as far as she was concerned. With the 2 still glaring at each other, it meant they wouldn't turn their attention towards her and Naruto, giving her enough time to train Naruto until he was ready to claim his throne. It also meant their forces were weak, since they were in a cold war that meant they hadn't really done any heavy fighting. This was also a good thing because it meant Naruto would be able to gather a large force and train them, and the forces of the 2 demon kings would be too weak to do anything until Naruto marched on their doorstep. "So far they have left our clan alone, deeming that we are not a threat with you gone." Kyuubi nodded as one of the older members finished their report. She was just about to speak when another voice called out in question. "And perhaps now that you know what has been happening here, why don't you tell us why you left for the human world?" Turning her head to face the voice, Kyuubi scowled. "Yuko. I had not realized you were a member of this council," she said in a dangerous voice. The one known as Yuko, a 7-tailed Kitsune with long white hair and carmine eyes, smirked. "I was promoted 400 years ago, when one of our counselors died from lingering injuries. But you did not answer my question. You almost make it sound as if I am answerable to you," Kyuubi said in a dangerous voice. She leaked out a fraction of her power, letting the 7-tailed Kitsune know he was treading dangerous waters. "That is not what I said at all," Yuko replied calmly, completely ignoring the killing intent. "Merely that you were avoiding the question. And I do not believe it unreasonable to ask what our leader was doing in the human world, when she should have been helping lead us." Many of the other Kitsune nodded and mumbled in agreement, though they were not as challenging on the stance as Yuko. Kyuubi forced herself to keep an impassive face as she spoke. "Very well, I suppose there is no harm in telling you. I left for the human world because I knew that if I stayed, Yomi and Mikuro would consider our clan that much more of a threat, and would have made more effort to destroy us. With many thinking I was dead, and our clan being scattered, I knew that at least some of our members would survive. During my time in the human world, I began looking for a way for us to reclaim our former greatness. There are many secrets hidden amongst the humans, secrets that could raise our status back to what it had been before, when Raizen-sama was still alive and we were one of the most respected clans in Makai." "I see." Yuko seemed to grimace when Kyuubi mentioned Raizen. Fortunately, he stilled his tongue from talking badly about the man, knowing that the redhead did not tolerate people who spoke ill of the former demon king. "And did you find anything that you think can help us?" Kyuubi smirked. "As a matter of fact, I did. I found a very powerful ally who could help us regain our lost honor, someone whose power dwarfs even my own." Silence. The silence in the chamber was so complete you could hear a pin drop. The revelation that there was someone stronger than Kyuubi was startling. Very few demons ever reached her level, and the only ones that had were the demon kings and maybe a few other upper S-class. Only one person had been able to defeat her in one-on-one combat since she had earned her title, and he was dead. "And who is this ally you speak of?" asked Yuko after spending a moment to regain himself. The grin on Kyuubi's face was enough to bring shivers to the Kitsune present. The heir of the third throne of Makai and descendant of Raizen Sama himself. Uzumaki Naruto. Birth of the new Demon King. Minato couldn't keep the frown off of his face as he sat on a small chair in his son's apartment. The entire place was, in short, a complete dump. The former Hokage could not believe his son was even allowed to live in a place like this. When they had first gotten to the apartment, Minato had been surprised to learn that his son was living in the red light district of Konoha. With the Uchiha police force gone, having been killed by none other than Itachi, a fact Minato was still trying to get over, the ANBU had been forced to take over their duties. However, given that they also had to do the most dangerous missions that came in, there were too few of them to do a proper job of cleaning up some of the more scrupulous areas. The Red Light District had been formed sometime after the Kyuubi attack due to the lack of forces capable of cleaning it up. And though Minato had no proof, he suspected certain council members may actually be allowing this place to flourish in order to line their own pockets. What made the resurrected Hokage angry, however, was seeing the state of his son's apartment. Just outside of the wall, painted in red paint, which Minato suspected was done on purpose to look like blood, were the words, "Go back to where you came from, monster." That alone had been enough to set off the man, and for the first time in his life, Minato had actually contemplated killing everyone in the village. Only the fact that his son told him not to stoop to their level, did the older blonde relent. The inside of the apartment was just as bad as the outside. Most of the furniture was old and worn. The chair he was sitting on looked like it had been found in a dumpster and cleaned with a hose. It was a mix of patchworked cloth, and when he sat on it he had been afraid it would break. It wasn't just the chair, all of Naruto's furniture and appliances were worn and broken down. The walls were chipped and had paint peeling off of them, the ceiling had large stains where the rain had soaked through. The floors were rickety and creaked when one walked, making it feel like they would break with one wrong step. The bathroom was dirty and had mold growing in the shower, the water heater didn't work, and the place was just an in general mess. "Here you go, Tsunade," Naruto said as he set down a beaten-up looking cup filled with tea in front of his father. The blonde Uzumaki took a drink of his own tea as he sat down and sighed. He was pleased that the clones he had made before leaving the village had been able to get him some proper food and drinks. Looking over at his father, Naruto frowned. "You alright, Tsunade?" "No," Minato said, his mouth a very thin line. "I'm not alright. I can't believe they would treat you like this. Like some kind of monster or a demon?" Naruto said with a mirthless smile. "But then, you did know how most Jinchuriki were treated when you made me one, right? You knew this was a distinct possibility." Minato winced but held firm. "I had thought the faith Konoha's people had placed in me would hold strong, and that they would at least tolerate you. I knew that things would be difficult for you. But I had never imagined that the people I sacrificed myself for would treat you this badly. Most leaders aren't capable of thinking the people they lead could commit such atrocities," Naruto said sagely. "They wouldn't be leaders otherwise. If you don't have a deep-seated love for the people to the point that you can willingly place blind faith in them, how can you effectively lead them?" A chuckle escaped Minato's mouth. "You seem to have a wisdom beyond your years, Naruto." "I just see things as they are," Naruto replied with a shrug. In truth, all of this started with Uchiha Madara. "I can't blame the people of Konoha for being scared and angry, and I can't blame them for their initial wariness of me. However, I can and do blame them for not even taking the time to get to know me. I can blame them for passing on their hatred to their children, and I can blame them for the life I've had to live for the last 13 years. These are choices they made, and while they may have been a byproduct of Uchiha Madara making Kyuubi attack the village, it still doesn't give them the right to do what they did." "No, it doesn't," Minato agreed. "What do you plan to do?" "I still plan on becoming Hokage," Naruto said after a moment to take another sip of his tea. "Not for the people of Konoha, but for Konoha itself." The blonde took a moment to compose his reasoning before continuing. "Konoha was once a great village, its shinobi were widely respected as some of the best while under the guidance Senju Hashirima, its people once loving and kind. While it wasn't perfect, as it was a shinobi village and still committed many atrocities against its enemies, it was probably the most idealistic place to live amongst all the hidden villages. However, all that changed. I can't say when, as I have not been alive long enough to know that. But I suspect it was after Shodai-sama died. He was the heart of this village, and with his death I don't think Konoha ever truly recovered. It was a slow process, but this village became an ugly place, filled with greed and hatred. No longer being guided by the Hokage, the council has almost total control of all civilian affairs. And many shinobi ones too, I suspect. You're right, Minato said. When I first became Hokage, I could see how many on the council acted. It was only my feared reputation that kept many of them from publicly acting against me. However, I had always suspected that they were committing illegal acts on the side. Money laundering, smuggling, drug dealing, subverting my shinobi forces on false pretenses. I have no actual proof, other than a few dead ends and false trails, but I know that many on the council have been corrupted by greed and the power their position offered. Which is why I'm going to change that, said Naruto. I plan on fixing this cesspit of a village and bringing it back to its former glory. Truth be told, while Naruto felt respect for the Konoha of old, the current village held no place in his heart. Were it not for the fact that there were a few people he considered precious that he knew would not leave it, and were it not for the fact that he was more or less using Konoha as a testing ground for his leadership abilities, Naruto would have left and let this place die, rather than restore it to its former glory. Then I'll be sure to help, Minato said, getting his son to look at him. The former Hokage grinned at his son. I have faith that if anyone can change this place for the better, it's you. Thanks, Tsunade, Naruto smiled. He was still a little unsure about his father, not in any negative way. However, he just wasn't sure what sort of relationship they should have. The blonde Uzumaki had been forced to grow up very quickly, his innocence and youth had been irrevocably shattered when he ran afoul a drunk villager for the first time. The front he had put up in front of everybody, that of the happy and ignorant child with a penchant for trouble, had been unknowingly crafted in order to keep his mind from breaking. With the unlocking of his demonic side, that front had been wiped away, leaving behind the scarred but emotionally strong adult that Naruto had been forced to become. He didn't have any real need for a father, he had raised himself, and his time growing emotionally was over. His ways were set and he had no need for the guiding hand of a father. Still, Naruto felt hopeful that he and his father could have some kind of bond, but it would have to be a friendship of equals. Of brothers, not of father and son. While Naruto was thinking about what it meant to have a father, Minato studied him. It was rather interesting to see the combination of himself and Kushina in Naruto. The blonde had a mixture of his and Kushina's face. He had Minato's eyes and jawline, but his mother's nose. However, the former Yondaime Hokage could also see areas where his son was completely his own person. Namely, the fangs that protruded from his upper lips and the fact that his fingernails were slightly clawed like an Inuzuka's. Naruto, do you mind if I look at the seal? Asked Minato. You want to look at the seal? Asked Naruto guardedly. Why? Well, I just noticed that you have some, interesting features. And I wanted to make sure it wasn't due to the Kyuubi's influence. Naruto sighed. He had known this would come up, but had been hoping he could put it off. Oh well. About the seal. I think there is something you should know. You see, Kyuubi is no longer sealed inside of me. In fact, the seal no longer exists. What? Minato asked calmly, as if he had not heard right. There are some things I didn't tell you in the Hokage's office, because they are private and I don't want anyone else to know yet. I would ask that you keep any thoughts and comments to yourself until I'm finished, okay? He paused and waited for his father to nod before continuing. Now the first thing I believe I should tell you is that Kyuubi didn't have any intention of destroying Konoha that night. When she was released from Madara's control, her original intention was to leave. However, she couldn't do that with the Konoha shinobi attacking her. I am sure you know the instinct of any sane person, be they human or demon who is being attacked, is to attack back. And that is exactly what she did. I won't go into details because you know the end result of those actions. I have already listened to her side of the story, and know many things about her that no one else knows. I know that while she wouldn't care if Konoha burnt to the ground, she wouldn't care if it didn't either. I know she is not evil, and I know that while she hates humans she won't attack unless she is attacked first. Because of that, I let her out of the seal. Naruto lifted his shirt and began channeling chakra through his body. Minato's jaw dropped as he saw, or didn't see, the hack Fuin appear on Naruto. But that would kill you. Minato shouted. And yet it didn't, Naruto said calmly. His words had the effect of calming Minato down, who grew thoughtful and was no doubt trying to figure out why Naruto hadn't been killed by releasing the Kyuubi. Where is Kyuubi now then? In Makai, Naruto answered, getting Minato to blink again. I have her currently gathering her clan, so that when I return to Makai I will have an information network and the basis of an army. Minto gaped at what his son was saying. Naruto actually laughed at his father's expression. This brings me to my next point. We are not fully human. I don't know much about your family name, but we are descended from a very powerful demon called Raizen, who was one of the 3 demon kings of Makai, and the most powerful of all 3. Raizen was a very powerful form of elite demon called a Mizoku, which loosely means tribe of devils. It was said that he was capable of destroying the entire world 7 times over. He died around 600 years ago, after falling in love with a human woman. You see, Raizen needed to eat humans to survive, and when he fell in love with her, he felt that he was unworthy of her affection because he ate humans. He left her after making a vow to never eat another human again until he saw her. However, he never did see her again. She died in childbirth before he could return to her. Yet he kept his promise, he didn't eat a single human being ever again and died of starvation 1,000 years later. We are descended from his child. That is the reason for my changes. When I was in the forest of death for the 2nd stage of the Chunin Exams, Orochimaru did something to block the effects of the Hack-Fuin. This in turn unlocked my demonic heritage which had been sealed by the Hack-Fuin and made stronger by Kyuubi's Yuki. Because of that I am now 2/3 RDS demon, and why I look older than my 13 years of age would suggest. To say that Minato was shocked was a very mild way of putting it. Hearing that he and his son were descended from the most powerful demon to ever exist, who was said to be capable of destroying the world 7 times over, was astonishing to say the least. However, that actually makes a lot of sense, Minato said as Naruto finished explaining everything he knew. I have always been physically more capable than others, stronger, faster and better able to both deal out punishment and take it than a human should be capable of. While your mom may have said I looked girly, my physical abilities had always surpassed those of my peers. That was actually why I am the only one capable of using the Hiraishin. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Why is that? Because unlike what most people think, the Hiraishin is not a reverse summoning jutsu or any form of true Jakuken jutsu, Minato said with a smirk. It is a speed jutsu that allows for near instantaneous movement using the seal of my kunai as a marker. And when I say instantaneous, I do mean that. It allows me to travel at the speed of light by opening a rift in space and time, which I can move through. That's far faster than anyone else can ever hope to be, and that kind of speed would crush a normal person. That sounds like Shundo, Naruto muttered with a frown. It sounded like Minato had found a way to use Shundo, despite not having much demon blood in him. Naruto knew the only reason he had so much Yuki and demonic properties was because Kyuubi's presence had enhanced and strengthened his own demonic blood. Which was slightly ironic because when she had been sealed inside of him, so too had his demonic heritage. That Minato could use Shundo, even as heavily modified as his version sounded, was impressive. Minato blinked as he hadn't quite caught what his son was saying. Nothing, I'll tell you later, Naruto replied. So, if your jutsu's not a Jakuken jutsu, then how are you able to block a Bijudama? Minato cracked a grin. It's a special Kekai ninjutsu that I combined with my Hiraishin. Basically, I opened the rift, but instead of going through it myself, I sent the Bijudama through it instead. Makes sense, Naruto muttered after thinking the theory on how such a technique would work over. It sounded useful, and he could help but wonder if it would be possible for him to use Shundo in such a way. The younger blonde decided to switch topics and began telling his father about the many pranks he had pulled within the village. Needless to say, Minato was impressed that his son was able to prank the Anbu and clans in Konoha. They reminded him of Kushina when she used to prank the village, only his sons were on a much grander scale. Though it wasn't so surprising when he thought about it, wasn't the new generation supposed to pass the old one anyways? A knock at the door interrupted their conversation. Opening it up revealed a female Anbu with long purple hair and a Nico mask on her face. Can we help you? Asked Minato as Naruto looked at the woman before smiling. Hey Nico-chan, how are you doing? Nico turned to look at Naruto. I'm doing alright, she replied in a soft alto voice. Naruto frowned when he noticed the slight tremor, but didn't get a chance to comment on it as Nico spoke again. The council has requested a meeting you with Yandame-sama. The council requested? Minato asked, eyebrow raised. I was not aware the council could request anything, it is not they who control the shinobi forces. Nico shuffled her feet unsurely. I am just a messenger, Yandame-sama. Right, Minato sighed, is Sarutobi aware of this? Yes. Very well, tell him my son and I will be there in a few minutes, Minato said, closing the door on a stunned Nico. The older blonde turned to look at Naruto. What do you think? Naruto blinked as his father asked for his opinion, but shrugged his slight surprise off a second later. I think the council is getting too big of a head, their egos are becoming large enough that I don't think they'll fit through a door soon. Perhaps we should help them deflate those egos. A smirk crossed the blonde Uzumaki's face as a plan began to form in his mind. So here is what we'll do. Birth of the new Demon King. The two blondes were walking side by side as the doors to the council chamber opened. The council chamber was designed much like a courtroom. Raised up on a dais was the Hokage's seat, currently occupied by a rather harried-looking Sarutobi Hiruzen. On chairs in front and slightly lowered were the three elders. Shimura Danzo, a old frail man, who would normally walk with a cane. He had black shaggy hair, and his right eye is kept bandaged. Danzo has had an X-shaped scar on his chin ever since his youth. He wore a white shirt, with a brown robe over top of it covering from his feet, to just over his right shoulder. Minato knew this man was well known as a warhawk, and had a much more militaristic view on how the village should be led. He was also the former commander of Root, and though Minato had no proof, suspected that Danzo was still leading Root from the shadows. Yudatane Koharu, an old woman with her hair pulled back in a twin bun locked by a traditional Japanese hairpin with two pearls dangling off the side. She was wearing a simple long kimono, closed by an obi, a jacket and a sash over it. And the final member was Mitokado Hamura, a man with gray hair, a beard, glasses as well as a constant frown that he always wore, even in his youth. He also has a strong jawline, a facial structure he had managed to retain even in his old age. His outfit was similar to the robes of the Hokage, only without the red lining, hat, or the kanji on the back. To their left was the Shinobi Council, which consisted of the clan heads, and the current Soteicho, captain commander, of the ANBU. Minato recognized many of those in attendance, some who had been the head of their clan when he had been Hokage, and others who had not been. Of those seats, only one was empty, the seat for the police force, which had been controlled by the Uchiha, and to the other side was the civilian council. Seeing them here caused Minato to frown. During his time he had managed to separate the civilians from the Shinobi Council, as their presence wasn't needed for anything ninja-related. That they were here meant they had managed to entrench themselves in power during the chaos of the Kyuubi attack's aftermath. As he and his son fully entered the chamber, everyone became silent. At least until one of the counselors spoke up. What is he doing here? A man Minato didn't recognize asked with a sneer as he pointed at Naruto. Minato's frown grew more prominent. Do you have a problem with my son, Counselor-san? He asked. The expression, silent enough to hear a pin drop, wasn't just an expression after those words left Minato's mouth, it was a literal description of how silent the council chamber was. Son. One of the members on the civilian council managed to stutter out after getting her voice back. Minato looked at the woman and nearly cringed at the bright pink hair she had. Seriously, who had pink hair? Did you think I would be willing to use anyone else's child to seal the Kyuubi inside of? Asked Minato. It was a completely rhetorical question, merely designed to make the people in the chamber think. And think they did. For the shinobi side of the council, those who had known and worked with Minato, everything now made sense. It was well known that the man known by many that the Kuroi Senku never did anything without a good reason, and would never willingly ask someone else to make a sacrifice if he was not willing to do so himself. A few of those in attendance were cursing themselves for having not realized it. How could they have missed the signs? Naruto in many ways looked exactly like Minato, even when he had been a chibi, right down to those ridiculous spiky, golden locks and bright blue eyes. For the civilian side, they were not thinking about how stupid they were. No, they were now feeling a form of fear. It was well known how horribly they had treated Naruto, and it would not be hard for Minato to find that out, if he had not already. If he found out how they had treated them, they were sure it would not bode well for them. Fearful mutterings broke out amongst the civilians. A tapping on a cane soon brought all speaking to a halt. Everyone turned to the only man who would get people's attention that way, Shimura Danzo. Perhaps we should get to the reason we called you here, Minato-san, the old man suggested. Though if everything went according to plan, this man's ability to disrespect him would be blunted. Minato resisted the urge to scowl at the man, not at all liking the disrespectful tone in Danzo's voice. However, there was very little he could do. He was not Hokage anymore, and since he had died, he couldn't even be considered a shinobi of this village. Very well, why exactly have you called me here? Sarutobi was the one who took the reins for this. I was speaking with the council, and we were wondering what your plans were, now that you have been returned from the dead. I plan on spending time with my son, Minato said. I have 13 years to make up for, and I plan on making the most of the time I have here. Would you consider reclaiming the Hokage title? As soon as the Sandame's words were uttered, chaos reigned. There was much shouting going on from the civilian council, many of them protesting Minato's return to the position. The clan heads were talking excitedly to themselves. It was obvious they at least were happy with the prospect of Minato's return. The elders meanwhile were scowling at Sarutobi, who had obviously ruined whatever plan they had concocted. Minato waited until Sarutobi managed to get order back into the council chambers before speaking. To be honest, I'm not sure why I should. His words caused a ripple of shock to spread through the council chambers. I gave much for this village, I sacrificed blood, sweat and tears in its defense. I killed many foreign ninja to keep it safe. I sacrificed myself and my son for the sake of Konoha and its people. And the only thing I asked for in return was that my son be treated as a hero for keeping your sorry asses safe from destruction. And what happened to that request? That very simple request and the only thing I ever truly asked of my people? You spat on it. You completely disregarded my dying request. You showed me dishonor by not having confidence in my sealing. You showed me that you never truly respected me by treating my son like some kind of disease. Everyone was shocked into silence at the Yandame's angry exclamations. If words had the power to physically harm people, everyone within the chamber would have been turned into nothing more than ashes at the sheer amount of anger in the man's voice. It was becoming very clear to them that Minato was not happy with their treatment of Naruto. That's not true. One of the civilian council members shouted, "Do not lie to me." Minato roared, his voice actually forcing the council member to recoil back in his seat due to fright. I've seen the dump my son lives in. I saw the writing you people put up on his walls. You people disgust me. Naruto is the greatest hero this village has ever, or will ever see. Because unlike Kyuubi's previous Jinchuriki, he did not choose to house it, it was forced on him. Previous Jinchuriki? Questioned Sum, who was the only one currently capable of speaking right now. Are you telling me that there has been more than one Jinchuriki for the Kyuubi? Behind his father, Naruto smirked. This was going to be good. Yes, as a matter of fact there have been 2 others, Minato said, his voice calming down. Only the few who knew Minato well could hear the mirth in his voice, the kind he had when he was about to drop a bombshell. The first was none other than Uzumaki Mito-sama, the wife of Shodai-sama. Minato paused, letting that thought sink in and watching with satisfaction at the many faces that paled. And the second was none other than Uzumaki Kushina, my wife. Silence. The silence within the council chamber was deafening in its absolution. No one spoke, many dared not even breath as these 2 revelations came crashing down on them. The wife of their beloved Shodame Hokage had been the first Jinchuriki for the Kyuubi, a woman who was more loved than any other, almost more loved than Hashirama himself. While Senjo Hashirama had been considered one of the founding fathers of Konoha, Uzumaki Mito was its mother. To hear that a woman who was so respected, so loved by the people of Konoha, was a Jinchuriki for the Kyuubi no Yoko was a complete shock. Worse still, they had just learned that Minato's own wife was a Jinchuriki. While Kushina was not as loved as Mito, she had been a widely respected figure. Her battle prowess as a shinobi was as legendary as her temper. Many knew that she and the Hokage had gotten married, though they did not know she had been with child. The shock that they had unknowingly insulted not one, but the wife of 2 Hokages was enough that many were rendered completely and utterly speechless. However, attention snapped to Minato once again, who was tapping a finger to his chin. While I personally don't know if I care for this village as I once did, I do know that my son is a member of its shinobi forces. And though Sarutobi has done his best to rule of Konoha after my death, he is well past the age where he should be retired and allowed to enjoy life with his grandchild. Therefore, I will be taking up the position of Yandame Hokage once more. Once more pandemonium set into the council chambers, with the shinobi side ecstatic and the civilians angry and fearful. You can't do that. Everyone winced at the ear-splitting screech of the pink-haired councilwoman. And why not? Asked Minato. Because you are already Hokage, the woman said as she attempted to think of a reason the Yondaime could not reclaim his position. And you died, so you can no longer be the Hokage. That is where you are wrong, Minato said with a thin, somewhat malicious smile. It was an odd look for the normally placid man's face, and many people who saw it shuddered. You see, before I died, I never passed on the hat to my successor. Sarutobi-san took up the position because there was no one else to do the job. But it states in the village charter, created by Shodai-sama himself, that until the Hokage passes on the hat to another, he shall remain Hokage. So you see, councilwoman, because Sarutobi, who was my successor, has given me the okay, I am Hokage. Birth of the new Demon King. It had only been a day Minato was renominated as the Yondaime Hokage of Konoha, yet much had changed in that small amount of time that made it feel like a lifetime to Naruto. So much had happened in such quick succession that it left the blonde's head spinning. During the coronation or recoronation, as it were, for the Hokage, the population had given joyous cheers at the sight of their Yondaime Hokage alive and taking up the position once again. Many could not help but feel that everything was going to be better now. They may have just been in a war, but now they had their Yondaime back. That joy and jubilation lasted until Minato then spoke of how disappointed he was in them. Many people after that had been shocked. They couldn't help but wonder, why was their Yondaime disappointed? What had they done wrong? After the initial shock had worn off, the people had begun whispering to each other, attempting to figure out why their beloved Hokage was so disappointed in them that he would actually express it in a speech. Then Minato had dropped the bombshell. Naruto was his son. There had been rumors, of course, started by the many people who had seen them together. Most of the ones claiming Naruto being the Yondaime's son were shinobi, the ones who had seen the two on the forefront of the invasion. The civilians, of course, had not believed them, and said it was because the Yondaime was controlling Kyuubi through the seal. Now those people who had scorned Naruto not only felt ashamed, but also afraid. They had treated the son of their hero like dirt. Worse still, Minato had given them the same speech he had the council, informing the people that two of Konoha's most powerful and well-loved female figures were in fact the Kyuubi's previous Jinchuriki. This, coupled with the blonde's disappointed, sent many into despair, and others into denial. His speech had an even greater effect on the younger generation, those who had been told to hate Naruto but were given no reason. Now they knew, and their trust in their parents, grandparents, and anyone old enough to know Naruto was a Jinchuriki had been shattered. Many of Konoha's youth had turned away from their parents after that. A rift had opened between the older and younger generations. The problem the older generation was that none of the children and teens who had been taught to hate Naruto had any real reason to hate him. Now that Naruto was not only the son of Minato, but also the hero who held back the Kyuubi, they were no longer listening to the words of their parents and elders. The only ones who weren't as affected by the announcement to such a large extent were those who knew Naruto best, even if that wasn't very much comparatively speaking. The Ichirakus had not cared that Naruto was the son of the Yondaime. It did not change anything about their relationship. To them, Naruto was and always would be their number one customer. The now famed Rookie 9 were a group that had varied affects. Most of what they felt was shock. They had always made fun of Naruto when they were younger, calling him loser, dobe, and picking on him for being a clanless orphan. To hear that Naruto was not only the son of the Yondaime Hokage, but also somehow related to the wife of the Shodai was a kick to the figurative balls for them. Many didn't know what to think. It was almost impossible for them to come to terms with what they now knew. Naruto was practically royalty. Only two members of the Rookie 9 didn't care, Uchiha Sasuke and Haruno Sakura. For Sasuke, all he felt was anger at hearing that the dobe was more special than him. He felt like Naruto was trying to take his rightful fame and glory away from him. Who cared if the idiot was the son of the Yondaime and related to the wife of the Shodai? Sasuke was an Uchiha, a clan far more famous than some stupid Hokage and the woman of a 2-bit clan. Sakura simply thought Naruto was trying to make her Sasuke-kun look bad so she would go out with him. Not that it would ever work. Naruto was an idiot for thinking that she would ever date him just because he was the son of the Yondaime. As far as she was concerned, Naruto was still an idiot. In the days that followed, Tsunade had confirmed that the Kazekage had been killed, after finding the man's corpse in the desert, not even hidden from view. They had sent a delegation led by Baki and Temari to renegotiate the contract for their alliance. Minato learned that the reason for their desire to see Konoha hurt and its reputation destroyed was because of their former alliance with the Hidden Leaf Village was sucking their economy dry, especially since the Kaze daimyo was sending more missions to Konoha than Tsunade. With that new knowledge, an alliance contract was hashed out quickly. 80% of all Kaze no Kuni missions had to go to Suna, and 20% of missions in Hai no Kuni would also go to Suna as a show of trust. It was a better deal than the smaller village could have hoped for, and they were more than happy with it. It was actually a good thing for Suna that they switched sides at the last minute. Had their forces actually fought Konoha, then Minato would not have been so giving. It was a time of change for Konoha. The Yondaime was back and not exactly happy with its people, and Naruto was now known to be the son of Konoha's greatest hero. However, many couldn't help but wonder, with how poorly people had treated the blonde Uzumaki, was the change coming to Konoha for the best? Birth of the new Demon King. How about another bowl, Ajisen? Naruto said as he stacked the now empty ramen bowl on the rather large tower of empty bowls. Ha ha ha, coming right up. The owner of the ramen stand, Ichiraku Tuchi, said with a laugh. Help me get another bowl ready for our favorite customer. You got it too, San. Said as she began helping her father make the food for Naruto. Said blonde leaned back in his seat as he thought about the past few days. He wasn't really sure if he liked the direction things were heading for him in Konoha. Sure, many of the citizens were being nice to him, praising the son of the Yondaime and thanking him for protecting them from the Kyuubi, but he knew they were only doing that because of who his father was. While Naruto had always wanted to be respected, he wanted it because he had earned it, not because his father was the Hokage. He finally understood how Konohamaru must feel. To be honest, being praised because of who you were related to sucked just as much as being hated for something you had no control over. Here you go, Naruto-kun, said as she placed a new steaming bowl of ramen in front of him. Naruto snapped out of his revelry and gave the pretty ramen waitress a grin. Thanks, chan. You're the best. I don't know about the best, said, blushing in embarrassment. Naruto just grinned as he began slurping up the delicious noodles. Watching the blonde for a second, the ramen waitress regained her composure and set her elbows down on the counter, resting her chin in the butt of her hands. So is it true that you killed Orochimaru? Naruto slurped up a mouthful of noodles and swallowed before answering. Yep, I ended up getting in a fight with him and killed while Tusan was fighting Naidame-sama. I always knew we're something special, said with a grin as she ruffled Naruto hair. Said blonde pouted at her action, which caused her grin to widen and a small giggle to escape her. She was pleased to see that even with all of the changes he had gone through, both physical and mental, Naruto was still more or less the same kid she used to know. It was while Naruto was on his 50th bowl, having already broken his record by 20, that an Anbu appeared beside him in a sunshin. The ninja, wearing a bear mask, looked at the rather precarious stack of ramen bowls, a sweat drop forming on his head. Uzumaki-san, Hokage-sama wishes to speak with you. Naruto nodded, pleased that the shinobi wasn't one of those simpering fools who referred to him as Sama or worse, honorable son. Tell my old man I'll be there in a second, I just want to finish up my food, he said, finishing up his bowl. The Anbu nodded and left in a puff of smoke. Standing up, Naruto stretched his body out and let out a satisfied sigh of content. He threw some money on the table before, leaving an extra large tip and tossed off a salute. See you two later, he called as he began to leave the stand. But before he could get out of the door, his path was blocked. Naruto blinked several times as he saw himself looking into the light brown, pupilless eyes of Mitarashi Anko. She was staring at him with a very serious expression, and Naruto was not at all sure what she was doing here. He had not had any real interactions with the Tokubetsu Jonin, aside from the time she had cut him with a kunai and then licked his blood. Not normally a best first meeting, but now that Naruto's full heritage had come out, he would freely admit her actions had kind of turned him on. Can you help you, Mitarashi-san? Asked Naruto. His answer was for Anko to actually lunge at him. Naruto prepared to defend himself but became surprised when the woman's lips smashed against his. For a second, the blonde froze, his mind trying to comprehend what was happening. However, once his brain caught up with the world around him, Naruto closed his eyes and leaned into the kiss. He might not know what the hell was going on, but that sure as hell didn't mean he wasn't going to enjoy it. He was kind of surprised. Anko's kiss was very clumsy and unsure. She didn't seem to know what she was doing. Which, considering the way she acted, was not what the blonde Uzumaki had expected. This left Naruto to take over the kiss. Even more surprising was that as the kiss continued, his cheeks began to get wet. Naruto opened his eyes to see that Anko was crying as they kissed. Not sure if he had done something wrong, or if there was just something wrong with the woman he was currently in a lip lock with. He broke the kiss. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked. He hoped his kissing wasn't so bad that she was crying. Anko's answer was to bury her face in his neck, muttering "thank you" over and over again. Naruto, confused and unsure, did the only thing he could think of. He wrapped his arms around the crying woman and held her tightly. Birth of the new Demon King. Naruto entered the Hokage office to see that several people were already there. His father was seated behind the Hokage desk, a stack of completed paperwork at one end. Beside him were Hiruzen and Jiraiya, who were currently helping him get settled back into his position by updating him on the recent history he had missed. What surprised him were the other people in the room. Shikamaru was currently standing in front of the desk with a bored look on his face. He would yawn every now and again, looking for all the world like he didn't want to be there. Beside him was a woman he didn't know. He recognized her as an Inuzuka due to the traditional fawn-like tattoos of the Inuzuka clan on both of her cheeks. In addition to that, she had a tattoo on her upper right arm that resembles a flower. Her outfit consisted of a form-fitting variation of the Konoha flak jacket, the differences being that it didn't have any front pockets and she was keeping the front of her jacket unzipped, exposing her bust. She also wore a pair of form-fitting shorts cut just above the knee. The one thing that surprised Naruto was that she had a softer appearance than the other members of her family, not having extended canines or slit-like eyes, and spiky hair, but tied into a neat ponytail with bangs framing each side of her face. The final member of their group was Aburame Shino, who was standing near the Hokage's desk completely silent. "You're late," Minato said with a frown. While he wasn't all that worried, Naruto didn't seem the type to be late. He couldn't help but wonder what had held his son up. "I ran into Anko," Naruto said, shrugging as he entered the office more fully. "She wanted to thank me for killing Orochimaru." He had actually been forced to take Anko to his apartment, as her crying on him had started attracting a crowd and she was too busy bawling her eyes out to inform him where she lived. It had taken nearly 15 minutes for her to calm down, and that was only because she had cried herself to sleep. He still wasn't sure what to make of her reaction to her former master's death. She seemed overjoyed, and yet he was sure somewhere deep inside of her, she was also hurt. "I'll bet she did, Gaki," Jiraiya said with a lecherous grin. "Jiraiya, I swear if you make any sexual connotations towards Anko, I will castrate you and ram you cock up your ass," Naruto said in a serious tone. While her actions before he got here were confusing, he could recognize when someone's had a bad life on sight, which was why he was feeling protective towards her despite not actually knowing her. He could tell Anko had it tough, and he would be damned if some pervert made any untrue comments about her. Jiraiya paled, both at the threat, which was not only rather creative and something he had never heard before, but also very violent and unpleasant sound, as well as the tone of Naruto's voice. His tone was calm, almost conversational, like he wasn't threatening someone. That kind of tone was often used by people who really would go through with their threats. "I have several reasons for calling you all here," Minato began, ignoring the way Naruto had threatened his sensei. As far as the older blonde was concerned, Jiraiya deserved that one. "First things first, Nara Shikamaru, congratulations on your promotion to Chunin." "Troublesome," Shikamaru muttered as he was presented with a sealing scroll that contained his Chunin flak jacket. Minato cracked a smile at the Nara air. "I expect you to live up to the title of Chunin." He turned his attention to Shino. "Aburame Shino, congratulations on your promotion to Chunin. While you did not get a chance to participate in the exams, it was well noted by Instructor Yumino how you had come to the academy and helped defend the student population." "Thank you, Hokage-sama," Shino said, accepting the sealing scroll with his usual zeal and enthusiasm. Meaning he didn't have any, because Shino had all the emotional responses of a robot. "And finally, Naruto," at his name the blonde straightened. "For not just showing your prowess and ability in the Chunin exams, but also for beating both the Ichibi no Shikaku's Jinchuriki and fighting and defeating Orochimaru of the Densatsu no Sannin, I hereby grant you the rank of Tokubetsu Jonin." It was the highest promotion Minato was able to give his son, as gaining the title of Jonin required one to take the Jonin exams. Otherwise he would have been promoted straight to Jonin. "You've earned this." "Thanks, Tsu-sama," Naruto said with a grin. Minato rolled his eyes as he handed Naruto his scroll. "And now for the other reason you all are here," Minato continued. Everyone, even Shikamaru, straightened at his words. "I have a mission of the utmost importance for you. The four of you, under the leadership of Uzumaki Naruto, are to find and bring Senju Tsunade back to Konoha." Birth of the new Demon King. In a dark cave, a dull violet light pulsed and throbbed rhythmically, illuminating a massive statue. The statue was of an upper torso and head with two arms held in front of it, palms raised and fingers curled up. Its wrists were shackled, there was a bit in its mouth and a blindfold over the upper part of its face. From under the blindfold multiple eyes could be seen, each one was currently closed. Standing on the statue's fingertips were 8 outlined figures, their eyes being the only distinguishable feature. "Why did you have to us?" The disgruntled question came from a man whose outline revealed that he had spiky hair and a large bandaged object on his back. "We're less than a day away from Konoha. There has been a change in plans, Kisame," another man said. This man had spiky hair as well, in a more messy style. However, the most distinctive feature about this man that could be seen were the eyes. Gray sclera and iris with purple ripples spread out from the center. "I want you to hold back on capturing the Kyuubi until reinforcements arrive." "What? Why?" "Sasori will be able to better explain the situation," the Rinnegan-bearing figure said. The one named Sasori, a hunchbacked-look figure, said. Initial reports were a bit sketchy, given that Konoha was recently invaded by Oto and Suna. However, we have now been able to confirm that the Kyuubi Jinchuriki was the one who killed Orochimaru. "So?" "Orochimaru was a chump," Kisame said. "We all know he was the weakest of us. It has also been confirmed that the Yondaime Hokage was returned to life via a kenjutsu that Orochimaru cast." Silence met that statement. However, the Rinnegan bearer had one more piece of news for everyone there. It has also been confirmed that the Kyuubi Jinchuriki has some kind of variation of the Rinnegan. "Well, shit," Kisame said. "Therefore, you and Itachi must wait until reinforcements arrive. Haiden and Kakazu will be going with you too. Also, you must not attack the Jinchuriki while he is within Konoha's walls. Between Jiraiya, the Yondaime, the Sandaime, and the Kyuubi Jinchuriki himself, none of you would stand a chance." "Then how do we get him?" asked a figure with glowing red eyes that held 3 tomo. "Our sources indicate that the Kyuubi Jinchuriki has left on a mission to search for Senju Tsunade," replied Sasori. "So we wait until he's far enough away from the village that he can't call for help, then we attack?" asked Kisame. "Yes." One by one the silhouettes flickered out until only 3 were left. The spiky-haired ring-eyed man, another man with a mask that had a swirl-like pattern that converged on the right eye, and the only woman of the group, her hair decorated by a single paper rose. "Be sure to capture the Kyuubi Jinchuriki quickly," the man in the swirl mask said. "If he does indeed have the Rinnegan, he will become a problem to us later." "Do not concern yourself, Madara," the man with the Rinnegan said. "He is still new to those eyes. He won't be able to use them to their full potential for years." "Let us hope you are right," Madara said before disappearing. "Are you sure this is the best option, Pain?" asked the woman with the flower in her hair. "If he really does have the Rinnegan, then there can only be one god," Conan, Pain said. "And it is not him. Come, we have much work to do in order to prepare for the extraction." After a few seconds' hesitation, Conan nodded and both figures disappeared, leaving the room empty save the giant statue. Birth of the new Demon King. The Reikage of Kyomogakure read over the report with a large frown. He was a very large, muscular man with slicked-back white hair and a small mustache. He was wearing his Kage hat and robe without a shirt underneath, allowing others to see his Hulk-like physique. Each wrist had a gold bracelet with protrusions sticking out of them. "Mabui!" he called out as he finished reading the report his subordinates had just sent him about the latest Chunin exam held in Konoha. What he had read was extremely disturbing, and would need to be dealt with immediately. The door opened and in walked a young woman with dark skin and green eyes. She was wearing very formal attire, consisting of a long-sleeved, high-collared dress shirt and skirt, along with a pair of long earrings and sandals. She had her light gray hair pulled back into a bun with 2 bangs that fall on either side of her face. "Yes, Reikage-sama," she said. "I need you to get me Samui. Tell her I've got a mission for her of the utmost importance." Mabui blinked at the seriousness and agitation in her leader's tone. However, she was used to her Kage's quirks and rashness and just nodded. "Of course, Reikage-sama." As Mabui left, the Reikage went over the report one more time. "Uzumaki Naruto, you will be trouble if I don't deal with you soon." Chapter 13, Run Before You Can Walk. Naruto was sealing some of the items he felt he would need into a sealing scroll when he heard a light groan. Looking over at his bed, he saw Enko beginning to stir. He watched as her eyes fluttered for a second before shooting wide open. The purplet shot off the bed and instinctively reached for her kunai pouch, which was not there as Naruto had taken it off of her when putting her to bed. Her eyes soon landed on said blonde Uzumaki and widened. And Naruto. Hey, he greeted with a half smile / half grin. Are you feeling alright now? You were pretty, distraught when I brought you here. Anko blushed bright red as she remembered her actions, which she would half admit was caused by mass amounts of sake and the other half being genuine gratitude. Though if Naruto were to learn those thoughts he would assume the sake had more of an influence on her. Sorry about that, she scratched the back of her head sheepishly. I was a little, drunk when I spotted you. Don't worry about it. It's not like I didn't enjoy the kiss, Naruto said with a grin. He watched as Anko looked away. Though I was a little worried for a moment there. I thought you were crying because my kiss sucked. Well I wouldn't know. That was my first kiss, Anko admitted with embarrassment laden in her voice. Naruto blinked. Really? That's surprising. He was even surprised that she would tell him. Oh, Anko gained a tick mark on her forehead but kept her face otherwise calm. And why is that? It's just that you're so beautiful I thought you would have men lining up to be with you, Naruto told her honestly. Anko, who had been angry just a few seconds ago, thinking Naruto assumed she was some kind of slut like everyone else, snapped her mouth, which had just opened to spew expletives at him, shut. It took her several moments of silence to process Naruto's words into something she could understand. When she finally did, she looked down at the ground. Why you think I'm beautiful? Naruto frowned at Anko's actions. They were very different than what he had expected of the strong and frightening kunoichi he had met before the second stage of the Chunin exams. She seemed so unsure of herself. He had more or less figured out that her public personality was more or less an act. Some of what she showed others were real enough, but the blonde was sure that most of what people saw was simply an act she used to keep others away. Despite this, she looked a lot more unsure of herself than he would have expected of a jonin. Why wouldn't I think you were beautiful? Naruto said, answering her question with another question. Anko looked at him for a moment before seeming to regain her usual attitude. She quickly laughed and said, well of course I am, right? I mean, I'm the great and sexy Mitarashi Anko. You don't need to act around me, Anko-san, Naruto said, causing her laughing to trail off. I know what it's like to be discriminated against by the village. So don't think you need to pretend around me. Anko's feet began playing with the carpet when she looked down. I suppose you would, huh? She looked up at him and grinned. Though you're something of a hero nowadays. Yeah, because of my two-san, Naruto said with a snort. They don't actually like me, but because I killed Orochimaru and my old man expressed his shame in how they treated me, I'm treated differently. However, I'm not Sasuke so I'm fairly indifferent to their ass-kissing. Anko snickered at his words and Naruto grinned. Listen, I've got a mission so I've got to get going. But I was wondering if you wanted to hang out sometime after I get back. What do you mean? Like a date? Asked Anko, looking at him curiously. If you want, Naruto shrugged. I was just thinking of hanging out, but we could do a date too. He grinned and winked at her. You certainly won't find me complaining about taking such a beautiful young woman out to dinner. Anko shook her head, partly in amusement and partly to hide her blush. You're a lot different than what I remember from you, Gaki. You do know I'm 11 years older than you, right? You say that like age matters to me, Naruto said. He pointed to his headband. I'm wearing this, aren't I? That means I'm an adult in the eyes of the village. Actually it didn't matter to him because he wasn't human. As a demon, and one with above S-class power he was immortal. Raizen himself had been nearly 4,000 years old before he died, and he would have lived longer had he not made that promise to never eat another human. The fact was, when you became timeless, age meant less than nothing. The blonde grinned at Anko. Besides, do I look 13 to you? No, Anko said, shaking her head. She smirked at him. You'll have to tell me why you look so much older than you did a month ago. Maybe later, for now I've got to head out, Naruto said. You don't need to bother locking the door when you leave, I don't have anything of value in here anyways. You're just going to let me stay here? Asked Anko, her eyes widening slightly in surprise. Naruto shrugged. You can leave any time you want, but I don't particularly care if you stay either. Anyways, I'll see you later Anko-san. That's Anko-chan to you Gaki. Anko shouted after Naruto as he left the apartment. The infamous snake mistress of Konoha looked around at the apartment. It was clean, but rather trashed, likely from years of abuse and break-ins. It certainly wasn't a place someone like Naruto deserved to live. Hopefully the kid's father would be able to get him a nicer place. It would be a shame to come to this place every time she wanted to see Naruto, and she was beginning to like the kid. Birth of the new Demon King. Naruto arrived at the north entrance to see that his team was already there. He looked at the three of them. Hana was standing at the ready. She had 3 dogs with her, all 3 of whom had stiffened at his presence. Shino was standing under a tree. There was a slight buzzing sound coming from his insects, which Naruto noticed also had much to do with his presence. The only one missing was, "Where is Shikamaru?" asked Naruto as he looked around. "Right here." Everyone turned to look down the road to see Shikamaru wearing his usual outfit, only with the Chunin jacket added on. He yawned and stretched his hands above his head, his perpetual lazy and bored expression on his face. Let's get this troublesome mission over with. Were it not for the fact that Naruto had more or less expected this response from the lazy ninja, he would have rolled his eyes. In a minute. First off, I want a dissertation of your skills. I already know most of yours, Shikamaru. However, I never really saw Shino in action, and because Kiba didn't really put up much of a fight in the prelims, I know next to nothing about Hana-san here. Shino, as you well know, I am a member of the Aburame clan, Shino began, pushing his sunglasses up his nose and causing them to flash in the sunlight. I rely mostly on my Kakachu beetles in combat. My main style of combat relies on me being several moves ahead of my opponent and boxing them in with my Kakachu, then draining them of their chakra so they can't fight. I am also versed in several of my clan techniques, such as the Mushy Bunshin, Bug Clone. So you're mainly a long-distance fighter who relies on chakra-eating insects and strategy, Naruto stated after hearing everything Shino said. Correct, Hana? Said Naruto, turning to the last member of his team and the one he knew absolutely nothing about. Right, Hana stood at attention. Like everyone else in my clan, my style relies heavily on my clan taijutsu and our special attacks. I always fight with my partners, the Haimaru Senkyode, 3 Haimaru brothers. I'm also a vet, and have some basic experience in medical jutsu and medicine. How good are you at healing humans? Asked Naruto. Not very, Hana admitted. I specialize in dogs, though I do know a few medical techniques for humans. I wouldn't be able to heal anything more than superficial wounds. Naruto nodded, having expected as much when he asked that, but felt the need to confirm. Being a vet meant she specialized in helping animals, not humans, and there were differences in anatomy and genetics she had to account for in her techniques. Meaning the jutsu she used on dogs and cats wouldn't work if she used them on a person. Alright, you all know our mission, Naruto began. We are to find and escort Senju Tsunade back to Konoha. Hana, we're going to rely on you and your Ninken, ninja dogs, to find Tsunade. Jiraiya-san only gave us a basic heading on where to go. Right, Hana said with a nod. I'll need something of Tsunade-sama's in order to find her. I've got something that Jiraiya-san gave me, Naruto said, holding out a scroll. We'll wait until we're in town however, as I don't want the scent to possibly get ruined by our own scents. When Hana nodded, Naruto looked at his other 2 teammates. Shino, we'll also be relying on your bugs to search out any powerful chakra signatures. When Shino nodded, the blonde Uzumaki turned to the final member of his team. Shikamaru, I want you to create several contingency plans in case Tsunade decides to bolt. From what Jiraiya-san told me, it's a very likely possibility with her. Sounds troublesome. He trailed off at the look on Naruto's face, which more or less said, unless you want to experience untold amounts of pain, do as I say, and hurriedly added, but I'll do it. Good, Naruto said, clapping his hands together. Our first heading is Oto Fujiangai, where Jiraiya-san's spy network last reported Tsunade being seen. We'll be traveling fast, so it should only take a day for us to get there. Now, let's go. After checking out with the gate guards, Naruto and the others walked out and jumped into the trees. As they began traveling to their first destination, Naruto found his mind on Kyuubi. She had yet to return to him, and while he was not worried as he knew she could take care of herself, he was beginning to miss her. Sighing, he refocused on his mission. All he could do was hope she would return soon. Birth of the new Demon King. Minato had just finished his paperwork for the day when the 2 members of the Elder Council, Danzo, and Hyuga Hayashi entered his office. Minato looked up to see them all there, nodded in greeting. I'm glad to see you've all come so promptly, he said, indicating several seats next to Sarutobi and Jiraiya, who had been with him since the morning. We have much to discuss. The 3 retired ninja, and 1 clan head all sat down, wondering what they had been called for. Yudatane Koharu, Mitokado Hamura, as of this moment I am firing you from the elder's position on the council. 6 sets of eyes widened to his statement and Minato was hard-pressed not to smile. Your positions will be taken by Jiraiya-sensei and Hayashi-san, with Sarutobi-san as its head. You can't do this? Koharu exclaimed, shock clearly evident on her face. We have been the elders on the council for decades, which is why it's time for you 2 to retire, Minato said calmly, having expected this response. You've remained in power for too long, and I think you've gotten too comfortable with the position. I have another job I want the 2 of you to do. Many of our shinobi do not understand the politics that run a village. Therefore, I am making it mandatory for all shinobi of Chunin rank and up to learn about the political arena, both in our village and in others. You 2 will be teaching in seminars once a month until all of our shinobi understand politics, and then again when we get a new batch of Chunin. You will be continuously paid for an S-rank mission for doing this, allowing you to keep your comfortable lifestyles. And I can do this, you forget that I am the Hokage. This village is a military dictatorship with the Hokage in charge. All decisions on how this village is run, and who is helping me run it is up to me. Not you, or anyone else. If you cannot accept that, then I will have to forcibly retire you. He left the threat hanging in the air, forcing the 2 elders to concede defeat. Satisfied, Minato dismissed the 2 and turned to Hayashi. Aside from your new job as acting elder, I also have a proposition for you. Yes, Hokage-sama? Hayashi asked with a raised eyebrow. I am going to be rebuilding the police force that the Uchiha clan once controlled before the massacre, Minato said. I wish for the Hyuga to be in charge. Hayashi's eyebrows rose to his hairline, and for the first time in his life, surprise was shown clearly on his face. Minato held back a smile at getting emotion to show on the normally stoic man's face as he continued. While the Hyuga will be in charge, this will not be a solely Hyuga-operated program. Your clan will be working closely with those of the Inuzuka and Aburame clans, who have always worked well with the Hyuga in tracker squads. I have already created a basic outline of what I want. However, should you feel the need to make changes, do not be afraid to do so. I want you to look the plans over, and in 1 month come back with any changes you have the structure of the police force. Afterwards, you will have 5 months to implement the new police force into the inner workings of Konoha. Is this acceptable? Hi, Hokage-sama, said Hayashi. While it was hard to tell with the man's stoic face, he looked exceedingly happy. The man left a few moments later and turned to Danzo, who looked as stoic as ever but had a sense of curiosity about him. Minato looked at Danzo for a few moments, remembering what Naruto had told him about the man. Birth of the new Demon King. Flashback. It had only been a few minutes after Minato's first meeting with the council, and after getting his anger at his son's treatment in Konoha off his chest, the newly reappointed Yondaime was feeling much better. With him were Naruto, who was sitting down on the couch looking relaxed and comfortable, Jiraiya, and Sarutobi. Well, I think that went well, Sarutobi said at last. You managed to leave the council flatfoot. Good, Minato replied. Hopefully I will be able to take them even more off guard in the months to come so I can implement the changes I want without interference. He had many changes he wanted to make to Konoha, several of which were actually ideas he had gotten from Naruto, who was a fountain of innovation and change. Some would not be able to be implemented for years, but a few were ones he could do now. However, his thoughts on what he wanted to change about Konoha were derailed as Naruto spoke. That old man with the bandages, that was Danzo, right? He asked. Yes, Sarutobi said, curiosity evident in his voice. Why do you want to know? He is hiding something, several somethings in fact. What do you mean? Asked Minato with a thoughtful frown on his face. As you I've told, with the Rinnegan I can see and analyze chakra. While I do not have the 360-degree vision and ability to see Tenketsu as the Byakugan, or the copying abilities of the Sharingan. With the Rinnegan I can see chakra at its base forms. Danzo has a powerful chakra hidden in his right eye, and there are 10 chakra spots on his left arm, though they are not as powerful as the one in his eye. I don't know what they are, but they remind me of the chakra I see when looking at the Sharingan Kakashi and Sasuke possess. This caused the 3 older ninja to look pensive and startled. Minato decided he would need to make plans in order to force Danzo into revealing himself in a way that implicated him in a treasonous light. He began to make plans on what to do about the known Warhawk, either to make use of him, or hang him by the proverbial throat. Flashback end. Birth of the new Demon King. I am reactivating the Black Ops program route and placing you at its head. Began Minato, surprising the elder man enough that it actually showed on his face. That was of course what he wanted, to leave Danzo off guard and off balance. He and the old Warhawk never saw eye to eye on how the village should be run. Much like Senju Hazarima, Minato believed in trying to create peace amongst the shinobi villages, while Danzo believed in using fear and war to subjugate the other villages. They had argued many times in the past when Minato had become Hokage. That was what likely had the older man so surprised. Of course, I've known even before my death over 13 years ago that it was still active. Despite the fact that Sarutobi had ordered you to disband no well over 3 decades ago. However, I am willing to forgive this transgression and not have you executed for treason if all of my conditions are met. My first condition is that I want to know who you have working for you, therefore you will give me a roster of all NA operatives both past and present on my desk within the next 24 hours. Secondly, I want a complete overhaul of your program's training. No longer will NA operatives be emotionless robots incapable of independent thought. I need them to have a full range of personalities and the ability to switch as needed. They will be working closely with Jiraiya's spy network to go undercover in other hidden villages that we are still hostile towards. We will give them authentic passports to enter other countries under an assumed name, and they will have to take on multiple identities to suit our needs. They will be our first line of defense, taking care of any problems we might run into long before these issues ever reach our doorstep. You're talking about a complete overhaul of my training methods, Danzo said slowly once Minato had stopped talking. Such a deviation from my original training will take time, and the older recruits will be very hard to re-educate. Which is why I am giving you 3 years to accomplish this, Minato said. Also, I want it made clear that you will no longer be recruiting children, all members of NA will be Chunin and higher. If you want someone, send me a list of those you feel have the potential to be in NA and I'll decide whether or not they should go there. You will report your progress to the Hokage each month. I will also be doing a personal checkup of my own, just to make sure you have not deviated from my design. What about funding? Asked Danzo. You still have over 100,000 Ryo from the funds you've been leaking from the treasury, Minato stated, enjoying the look of surprise on Danzo. The man likely thought since Sarutobi never noticed he wouldn't either. It was clear this man forgot just how good at intelligence gathering and reading between the lines Minato was. Truth be told, it had not been hard for him to have Sarutobi pull up the money spent from the treasury and discover the trail Danzo had leaked. Of course, it could have been someone else. The money trail had led to a dead end. But considering the reaction he just got, it was safe to assume Danzo was the one leaking funds. You'll start with that. If you need more funds, then we will discuss that at a later date. Hearing the dismissal in Minato's voice, Danzo left. Are you sure that was a good idea? Asked Jiraiya. If what Naruto said was true and he is hiding several Sharingan eyes on his body, then it means he has not only committed a crime against a clan, but also has been experimenting on bloodlines, possibly even using the work Orochimaru had here before leaving Konoha, Minato said, interrupting his sensei. Or it could be possible he was working with Orochimaru, Sarutobi pointed out. While he didn't want to think his old friend would do such a thing, the now retired Sandaime knew that if Danzo thought it was for the good of Konoha, he would not hesitate to do it. That's also possible, which is just another reason to keep an eye on him, Minato said. Even as the Hokage, I can't just arrest someone on groundless and baseless accusations. While I may be in charge, people still have rights and I still have rules that must be followed. I can't just say that my son saw chakra hidden by a couple of bandages, and there is no proof other than a similarity in chakra that what he has hidden are Sharingan eyes. Also, by giving my permission to reactivate NA, I am making it so that he can't do anything without me knowing. When you told him to disband the program, he didn't, and it allowed him to go underground because you trusted him to do so. During that time he was able to entrench himself in the village, and his actions were those of a ghost. With this, I can keep an eye on him and ensure that should he make a wrong move, I can finish him off. If you say so, Jiraiya said with a shrug. He knew that Minato never did anything without a good reason, so if his student thought something was a good idea, then it probably was. And while Danzo is digging his own grave, I want you, Sarutobi-san, to keep an eye on our two former elders. If they were the ones who gave away Kushina's birth to Madara, I want to know. Of course, Sarutobi said with a smile. Now that I'm more or less retired, it won't look so suspicious when I go and visit them to see how they are doing and spend time reminiscing about old times. Thank you, Minato said. He then turned to his former teacher. Now, Jiraiya-sensei, you were saying something about a possible threat to my son before the others came. Jiraiya's expression morphed into a form of seriousness that looked out of place on the normally jovial Gamasennin's face. Yes, I've uncovered a threat, not just to your son but to all Jinchuriki. They are calling themselves, Akatsuki, Red Dawn, birth of the new Demon King. Oto Fujiangai was a very lively place, Naruto decided. The town looked much like any other town, filled with shops, bars and restaurants. There were people walking up and down the street, enjoying the day, window shopping or just spending time with their friends. Stalls lined the street, each one filled with food or games or some other form of entertainment. Parents were taking their children to some of these stalls, buying them ice cream or some other sweet treat, letting them play a game where they had to use a net to catch a goldfish. Naruto even saw a shuriken throwing game that some of the older kids and young adults were playing. There was a lot going on, and Naruto was glad that he had two people who specialized in tracking, otherwise finding Tsunade would prove to be very difficult. Uzumaki-san, Shino said after having moved up to his side. The Kikaichu that I left in our path have picked up 4 powerful chakra signatures. Naruto didn't bother looking at Shino as he kept up his charade at looking at all that was going on around him as he said. What can you tell me about them? One of them is very powerful, in fact, the most powerful signature I can sense is more powerful than all 3 other signatures combined. Another feels odd, it feels like there are 5 different chakra signatures. I'm not skilled enough to tell more than that. The other 2 are contrasting with each other. One of them is very controlled, refined would be a good word. And the other is chaotic, violent. The blonde Uzumaki nodded as he asked, and how far out are they? At their current pace, they will be entering the city in 10 minutes. Okay, Naruto stopped, forcing the other 3 to stop as well. Change of plans you two. It seems we're being followed by several powerful ninja. I doubt they are friendly, so here's what we're going to do. I want you 3 to continue on as normal. Go to every bar, motel, casino and gambling parlor in town and see what you can find on Tsunade. Meanwhile, I'll go and deal with this new threat. Are you sure that's wise? Asked Hana. I mean, wouldn't it be better if all of us came with you? Not in this instance, Naruto said, shaking his head. Whoever is following us aren't your average, run-of-the-mill ninja. I'm likely going to need to go all out, and my techniques are destructive. I'd be just as prone to hurting you guys as I would them. Fighting sounds too troublesome anyways, Shikamaru said with a yawn. So I'll leave it to you. Just try not to die, otherwise your old man is gonna give us a lot of troublesome grief. I don't like it, Hana said, but I also know that you killed Orochimaru, and you are in charge. Shall have some Kikaichu monitor your situation, Shino said. As we are a team, we will step in should you find yourself in trouble. Naruto nodded, that's fine, though I don't think I'll need help. Focus on getting information on Tsunade for now. I want to have her either located, or if she's not in this town I want to know where she went. The 3 gave Naruto a quick, hi. Before heading out. Sighing, the blonde began walking around town again as if nothing was wrong. Birth of the new Demon King. For several seconds, Minato said nothing as he looked at the nervous Jonin in front of him. Hatake Kakashi, he began at last, looking at a file on the man who had at one point been his student. Jonin-sensei of Team 7, ever since I heard about you being a Jonin-sensei I have had your files pulled up. I must confess to being disappointed in the way you've handled your team. The silver-haired Jonin's lone eye widened but he was given no chance to speak as the yondaime continued. From these files I have come to the conclusion that you have been negligent in your duties as a Jonin-sensei. We shall start with a review of your mission to Nami no Kuni, Wave Country, which started off as a C-rank guard and escort mission. After finding out that the client had lied about the mission parameters, you failed to take in your student's safety first and decided to press on with the mission. Even after facing off against a member of the Kiri Shinobigatana Nananin Shu, and having the mission upgraded to an A rank you refused to back out of the mission. In your arrogance you also failed to even call for backup, which you know is the standard procedure when continuing with a mission that is beyond the current level of the team sent, and after your confrontation with the demon brothers is something that would have been simple for you thanks to your summoning contract with the dogs. Despite knowing the danger, you continued the mission where you faced the Kirigakure no Oni, demon of the hidden mist, Momochi Zabuza, and would have been killed were it not for the quick planning of one of your students. Even after this lucky break, you once again ignored protocol and refused calling for backup, which would have undoubtedly arrived before your second confrontation with Zabuza. It was only after all of this when you finally decided to teach your students tree climbing, which they should have learned 2 weeks after graduating from the academy. Your actions nearly cost you 2 members of your squad during your second encounter with Zabuza to Haku, who only lost that battle due to Naruto accessing the chakra of the Kyuubi, a dangerous situation as he had not had any instruction on how to properly use it. As it is, only his strong will and sense of morals stopped him from succumbing to its power. After this mission you continued along this road until it came time for the Chunin exams, and ignored 2 of your students so you could focus on Uchiha Sasuke after his Sharingan's manifestation via private tutoring once the other 2 had left. Because of your inaction in their training, both Naruto and Sakura were woefully undertrained. As I understand it, Naruto still had trouble with his chakra control, due to the vast reserves given to him via the Hakuin leaking Kyuubi's chakra into his chakra coils. Rather than help him and Sakura, who was floundering due to a lack of motivation to train, motivation which you should have provided, you left them in favor of a single student. Despite knowing of these problems and not doing anything to fix them, you nominated your team for the Chunin exams without giving them any warning or time to train for it. It was only thanks to Naruto activating a bloodline having long since been thought lost on my family's side that the 3 even managed to make it past the second stage. Then as soon as the preliminary rounds were over you disappeared on your Genin without a word to them so that you could once again privately train the Uchiha. Not only that, but despite Sasuke having received Orochimaru's Chuinjutsu, which combined with his already unstable personality made him a very dangerous person. You taught him exclusively, without even bothering to check in on your other students. Naruto got lucky, having already had a training plan in place and didn't need your help to do it. However, Sakura, who was the weakest on your team, was left behind. I must also consider the fact that you allowed Uchiha Sasuke to copy what you knew of the Goken, which you yourself copied from Madogai. On top of that, you went ahead and taught nature manipulation to a Genin so that he could learn the Chidori, which he then proceeded to try and use on his teammate after learning that he had been disqualified due to your tardiness. Throughout the entire meeting, Kakashi had slumped down further and further as he listened to Minato berate and bring him down. Finally, after Minato appeared to be finished, he asked, "Do you have anything to say in your defense?" No, Kakashi admitted, his shoulders slumping even further. Minato sighed. "I'm disappointed in you, Kakashi. I thought I taught you better than that, but it appears you learned nothing in your time with me. Nor did you learn anything from Obito." He saw his former student wince. "I can't overlook these issues. Not only does everything I've read show a lack of foresight, it also shows a blatant amount of favoritism and lack of leadership abilities. Because of this, you are going to be placed on a 6-month probation, and afterwards you will have to go through thorough testing to see if you truly have all of the qualities we look for in a Jonin." "But sensei." Kakashi gulped at the look Minato gave him and corrected himself. "Why Yandem-sama, what about Team 7? As it is, Team 7 has been officially disbanded," Minato said. "Naruto has already been promoted to Tokubetsu Jonin due to his feats in the Chunin exams and his victory over 2 very powerful ninja, one of which was S-ranked. Sasuke on the other hand will be getting a full psychiatric evaluation by Yamanaka Inoichi. Should he prove to be unstable, his chakra and Sharingan will be sealed until he can prove himself able to use his talents and skills correctly. Also, as a form of reparation, you will make a list of every jutsu you know and submit it for documentation. 30 of those jutsu will go to Naruto as a form of reparation for willful neglect." Kakashi just nodded, he was beginning to feel rather numb. For but a moment the world around him went out of focus as the ghostly forms of his deceased teammates materialized in front of them. Both held a disappointed look. Even worse, he could see the image of his father looking just as ashamed of him. The forms vanished the next second, however, and Kakashi was left standing with his newly revived former sensei. "And Sakura? From what I've seen of her files, Sakura should have never even become a genin," Minato said coldly. "She may have intelligence, but she lacks everything else, and that brain of hers seems to leave whenever Sasuke is involved. If she wants, she can re-enter the academy, but I won't have a girl who doesn't train, doesn't work, and berates one of her teammates in my ninja force." Kakashi nodded once before disappearing in a puff of smoke. Minato closed his eyes and sighed. I'm sorry to do this to you, Kakashi, but it seems you still have hard lessons that need to be learned. Birth of the new Demon King. Naruto spent nearly an hour walking around Oto Fujiangai pretending nothing was wrong. He spent some time eating the local cuisine and playing a few of the games. Being a ninja, and one blessed with the luck of a fox, Naruto won every one of the games he played. Not having much need of them, the blonde gave quite a few gifts away to some of the kids he found that weren't having much luck. Finally deciding enough was enough, he bought a stick of dango and began walking out of the city proper. It didn't take long before Naruto reached a decent-sized park that was just on the outer limits of the city. Finishing up his dango he swallowed before calling out, "Are you four gonna stay hidden, or do I have to blow this place up before you four come out of hiding?" Four figures appeared within the clearing Naruto had selected for his battleground. The first one Naruto laid eyes on was the guy who looked like an older Sasuke. He had black hair that hung near his cheeks to frame his face and kept the rest of it in a ponytail, which was later obscured by the high-collared black cloak that had red cloud designs on it. There were, however, a few differences between this man and Sasuke, aside from the age difference. Sasuke had very pale skin, while the man before him had a slightly darker tone of skin. However, the two most distinguishing features for Naruto were the long pronounced tear troughs under his eyes, and the eyes themselves. They were red with 3 tomo in each eye. The Sharingan. So the rumors really are true, this Gaki does have the Rinnegan like leader Sama. Naruto's attention shifted from the man with the Sharingan, who could only be Itachi's older brother and the one who massacred the Uchiha clan, to look at the guy directly to his left. He very tall and fairly muscled shinobi. He had a distinctive shark-like appearance, complete with pale blue skin, small, round white eyes, gill-like facial markings under his eyes, gills on his shoulders and sharp triangular teeth, a trait that reminded the blonde of Momoichi Zabuza. He also styled his dull blue hair in the form of a shark fin. He was wearing the same cloak as the other three, with the only differences being the large object he had on his back and the Kirigakure headband with the slash running through it. Who the fuck cares, let's just grab this little shit so we can go. Bad enough I can't sacrifice his ass to Jashin-sama, said a man with had medium-length silver hair slicked back with distinctive purple eyes. Cloak open with no shirt, only pants under it revealing his Yugikure forehead protector around his neck and Jashin amulet. He also wore dark green nail polish and his orange Akatsuki ring on his left index finger, which bears the kanji for 3, san. He had a rather large triple-bladed scythe on his back. Shut up Haiden, no one wants to listen to you complain or listen to you spout your mouth about your stupid religion. The last member was a dark-skinned, muscular man that towered over everyone in Akatsuki with the exception of Big Blue, as Naruto called him. He wore a hood and a black mask, with his eyes being the only visible part of his face. His eyes have an unusual coloring, green irides, no pupils and red sclera. Aside from his cloak he wore the forehead protector of his home village with a scratch in the middle which symbolized that he was no longer loyal to it. He also wore dark green nail polish and an Akatsuki ring with the kanji for North, Hoku, was placed on his left middle finger. Oh fuck you, Kakazu! Shouted Haiden, I'm sick of fucking listening to your shit. Fucking, money-loving prick. If you keep bad-mouthing Jashin-sama, I'm gonna fucking send you to hell. Even hell runs on money, Kakazu said, I'd be just fine. As amusing as it is to watch two grown adults act like a bunch snot-nosed brats, Naruto said, interrupting the duo before they began. I'm gonna have to ask that we get the ball rolling. To be honest, I'm glad you four came here. You see, I haven't had a good fight in a long time, since I killed Orochimaru anyways, but even he couldn't give me the challenge I've been craving. I hope you four do better. Hey, listen to this brat, Itachi, the blue-skinned man said. He grabbed the handle of the object he was holding and pulled it off his back, setting on his shoulder as a smirk graced his features. He thinks he actually has what it takes to defeat us. Come with us, Naruto-kun, Itachi said. Failure to do so will only make this harder for you. Naruto chuckled as he felt chakra invade his coils. I hope you don't think genjutsu of this level is going to work. He unleashed a torrent of his yuki and destroyed the illusion, along with the second one that had been woven into the first. It was a little trick Kyuubi had shown him. While his chakra control was not good enough to dispel a genjutsu higher than EB rank, his yuki could, even if he hadn't had decent control over it. I'm feeling a little insulted by your pathetic attempt at genjutsu, Itachi. I think I should show you just why it's a bad idea not to go all out on me at the very beginning. Blurring in a burst of speed, Naruto shot towards the 4 missing nin. Only Itachi was able to get out of the way in time, thanks to his Sharingan allowing him to see Naruto's movements with perfect clarity. The other 3 were not so lucky as the blonde appeared in between. Kisame ended up getting a double fist to the chest, while both Kakazu and Haiden were smashed in their respective faces. All 3 were sent flying backwards. I'm not surprised you managed to evade me, Naruto said as he looked behind him towards Itachi. Those damn monkey marbles of yours are annoying. You are very fast Naruto-kun, and quite strong, Itachi complimented. However, I would suggest you give up. You do not have any hope against all 4 of us. Heh, so you say. Naruto said with a smirk. You little shit. Haiden shouted as he got back up and charged the blonde. I'm gonna fucking murder your ass. Naruto turned to look at Haiden, who was closing in and swinging his scythe like a madman. Naruto's sweat dropped at how uncoordinated the guy's attacks were. It was like he just fought without any thoughts on what he would do next. The blonde really hoped that wasn't how Kyuubi told him he fought. Holding out his hand, Naruto called out, Shinra Tensei. An invisible force smashed into Haiden, forcing him to once more go flying backwards. Naruto didn't have any time to admire his handiwork though, as 2 masks, one that looked like a demonic tiger, and another that took on a strange 4-legged body with wings came at him. Katan, Zukaku, fire release, intelligent hardwork. Futon, Atsuji, wind release, pressure damage. The lion mask fired a small fireball, which erupted into a literal firestorm as it struck the ground. It burned everything in its path as it came towards Naruto. Meanwhile, a tornado was released from the 4-legged mask. It combined with the fire jutsu and created a massive firestorm nearly 5 times as large as the one that had been struck by the wind. Naruto waited until he could feel the heat from the flames of the firestorm, then made liberal use of Shundo and escaped the attack with ease. Reappearing several meters away. He took a second to compliment himself on his choice of battleground. He was far enough away from the city that it wouldn't take any damage from his battle. That was good, he didn't need civilian casualties. Looking around for a mere second, the blonde Uzumaki spotted and charged his closest opponent, Uchiha Itachi. Said ninja only noticed just as Naruto appeared before him, and if the widening of the man's eyes were any indication, he was surprised. That did not stop him from preparing for their first close-range encounter however, and Naruto and the Sharingan user began trading several blows. Their fists and feet were mere blurs as they fought, both of them launching attacks left, right and center at each other. You're good, Naruto said with a grin as he launched several quick as lightning kicks, switching from high to low at random. Itachi dodged or redirected each one, using his Sharingan to keep up as he soon found Naruto was faster than him. Really good. Way better than Orochimaru. Itachi didn't speak as he finished dodging Naruto's last kick, then launched several quick strikes with his fists. None of them reached Naruto as he dodged each one fairly easily. However, before the blonde could counterattack, Itachi jumped back and sped through a set of hand seals, Katan, Gokakyu no Jutsu. A large fireball was launched from Itachi's mouth. Naruto held up his hands as the fireball came in. Fujitsu Kyuin, blocking technique absorption seal. The fireball touched Naruto's hands and began to shrink as he absorbed the chakra into his body. It didn't take long before the entire technique was gone. Once Naruto finished absorbing the fireball, he pointed his hands at Itachi, palms up. Shinra Tensei. The repulsion attack smacked into Itachi, who was sent flying back. However, when he hit the ground, Itachi was covered in a burst of smoke and was replaced with a log. I've got you now, Gaki. I'm gonna sacrifice your ass to Jashin-sama. Naruto looked on either side of him to see Haiden and Kisame charging in, one with his scythe and another with large object. Naruto frowned as he charged Yuki into both hands. When the two swung at him, Naruto lashed out, striking the 2 weapons with his hands and unleashing a blast of Yuki. A powerful blast was launched from each fist, the reddish-black energy crackling in its intensity. The scythe melted as Haiden was sent flying back with a loud scream of pain. The bandages on the large object were shredded, revealing a sword. Or at least, what Naruto assumed was a sword. The thing's construction was atypical in that its actual blade was comprised from a series of downward-facing scales running along the entirety of its length until its hilt, at the base of which is a small skull. When Naruto's Yuki blast hit the sword, a loud screech was heard from it. The sound being emitted reminded the blonde of a dying beast. "What the hell?" shouted Kisame as his sword began to chip and vibrate. The blue missing ninja's face became much more pale as he listened to his sword's pained shrieks. "What the hell kind of chakra is this? His chakra hurt Samahata." Naruto smirked. "This is no ordinary chakra fish bait," he said. "My chakra is so potent that it's poisonous to anyone and anything. That includes the overgrown sack of scales you're carrying. Why, you little shit?" Kisame roared, losing it as he charged at Naruto. However, while Kisame had some speed, he was nowhere near as fast as Itachi, who was still slower than Naruto. Said blonde moved in quickly, utilizing Shundo to appear directly in front of Kisame. Reddish-black energy appeared crackling along his hand as the demon shinobi created a knife's edge. He plunged the hand directly into Kisame's chest, only for Kisame to burst into crows. Ha! Genjutsu. Naruto broke the genjutsu over himself, and saw that his entire field of vision was another firestorm of epic proportions. The blonde grit his teeth. The jutsu was much too large for him to absorb with his current skill. He wouldn't be capable of taking in such a large-scale attack. "I've only got one choice." His hands were spread out and channeled more chakra into his technique than he ever had in one jutsu. Shinra Tensei. Naruto harnessed his chakra and sent it out in a large blast of repulsive energy. The jutsu didn't get rid of the entire firestorm, but it did create a large hole in the center. The attack was also aimed directly at the lion mask, which Naruto knew from the last time launched fire attacks. His Shinra Tensei completely overpowered the mask and sent it sailing into and through a tree. It cracked as it plowed into the earth and then shattered seconds later, the thread that held the mask together unraveling in the process. A sigh escaped Naruto's mouth. However, he soon found he had no time to rest as a voice behind him called out. "Come here, you motherfucker." Turning, Naruto saw a literally burnt to the crisp Haiden. The silver-haired man's skin was flaking and falling off due to the poisonous and acidic effects of his yuki. Naruto could even see the man's ribcage being exposed along with several muscle groups that looked close to melting off. Naruto had to wonder how the man was still alive, much less able to run at him. Thankfully, his surprise at seeing someone actually survive an attack with his yuki was not enough to keep him from acting. Naruto channeled chakra into his index finger and made an L shape with his hand. Reddish-black yuki crackled into a ball on the tip of his finger, before it was released in a large cylindrical wave that overtook Haiden. This time the man didn't even get the chance to cry out in pain as his entire body was literally vaporized by the power Naruto pushed into the attack. Before Naruto could pat himself on the back, he was attacked by another mask, this one looking like some kind of deformed biped. It shot a large bolt of white lightning at him that Naruto was forced to use his speed to dodge. As he sped out of the way of the lightning, Naruto was about to use Shundo to get near Kisame, who looked to be closest to him. However, before he could do so, a large fire dragon rushed at him. Gritting his teeth, Naruto absorbed the chakra from the jutsu, only to yelp in pain as the lightning bolt hit him from behind. Thanks to the yuki that covered his skin, it was protected for the most part, but that attack still stung something fierce. Glaring at the mask, Naruto shundoed directly next to it, and then pulverized it with a yuki-enhanced fist. On instinct alone he spun on the balls of his feet. Naruto launched an energy blast at Itachi, who had appeared behind him. He only had enough time to widen his eyes as he saw the pulse of chakra, only for Itachi to explode violently. Naruto was launched back due to combined might of his yuki attack and Itachi's exploding clone. Flipping around, Naruto landed on his feet and skidded several meters back, leaving 2 long trenches from where his heels had been forced to dig into the ground. He uncrossed his arms, which were smoking, but there was thankfully no damage done to him beyond the average stinging in his arms. He looked at the 3 remaining enemies. Itachi was standing just a little ways away, along with Kisame. Kakazu was farther away, and Naruto saw that his entire body was covered with stitches and predominantly appeared to be sewn together, and if what he was seeing from the wind mask that had been attacking him a little while ago going into his back said anything, his body was composed of hundreds of thick, dark gray threads woven throughout his flesh. Kind of gross, but considering some of the demons he had seen, not all that unusual. "This Gaki's much stronger than we thought," Kisame said. "He managed to destroy 2 of my hearts," Kakazu grumbled. "I haven't had someone destroy my hearts since my battle with the Shodai Hokage." "You have fought most admirably, Naruto-kun," said Itachi. "However, surely you can see you are at a disadvantage. Please surrender and come quietly." Naruto began snickering. Then he began laughing. You don't honestly think I'm going to give up after this battle just started getting good, do you? This is the kind of fight I've been waiting for. Ha, the Gaki's got guts, I'll give him that, Kisame said with a smirk. If he wants a fight I say we oblige the kid, Itachi. Itachi closed his eyes and seemed resigned. It seems we have no choice. Ha, you haven't seen anything yet Itachi, Naruto said as his eyes began to glow dark reddish black, making his Rinnegan eyes look truly demonic. Yuki began pouring out of him in waves, the energy forming a cylinder around him that began to crackle with the contained energy. The three S-ranked ninja all saw the power, and while they didn't know what it was, they knew instinctively that it would be a bad idea to let him unleash that power. Itachi, Kakazu and Kisame all sped towards the blonde. Kisame readied several hand seals for his most powerful jutsu. The brat had already hurt his Samahata with his weird chakra, there was no way he would let it get damaged again. The two remaining masks extended out of Kakazu's body and readied their jutsu while the missing Taki ninja skin took on a metallic gray color. Itachi had activated his Mangekyo eyes, preparing to use his most powerful jutsu on the blonde. However, before any of the four fighters could attack, a large red wave of energy crested between them. The power blew the three S-ranked ninja back, while Naruto dug his heels into the ground and channeled chakra to his feet. The power, which Naruto noted was Yuki, flew past them, leaving a large trench as it continued on into the forest where it left even more destruction in its wake before dissipating. What was left between the three S-ranked ninja and Naruto was a large trench that had steam pouring off of it, like the attack had literally melted parts of the earth. Three sets of eyes widened as Itachi, Kisame and Kakazu wondered who had the power to create such a powerful attack. Sorry I'm late Naruto-sama. Everyone turned to see a beautiful red-haired female with carmine eyes and red hair with gold highlights. She was wearing a crimson sleeveless unitard with mesh netting running along the sides of her torso and a black battle kimono over it. A red sash with a black line running through the center held the kimono together. At the bottom front left side of the kimono was the symbol of the Kitsune clan. The outfit clung to most of her body like a second skin, and though it didn't show much it left very little to the imagination. On her feet were a pair of old-style ninja greaves, where the big toe was separated from the rest. The armor was a dark red in color, with golden lines moving across it in the pattern. They were segmented and moved up her calves, stopping at the ankle where a fox head was being used as a knee guard. Likewise she was wearing a pair of shoulder guards that were shaped in a fox head with the same color scheme being used. On her forearms was the same segmented armor as her ankles, which stopped in a guard plate just above her knuckles. Under that she had red fingerless gloves. Her red hair with gold highlights was tied into a ponytail behind her with a red headpiece that possessed 4 triangles surrounding and keeping her hair in place. The long red tresses swayed in a light breeze. Strapped across her back was a long sheath and in her left hand was a nodachi. Everyone looked at the beautiful, smiling female, wondering who she was. Everyone except Naruto. That's it for part 6. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.